Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darian and today we're going to be talking about the worst books that I read in 2023. So I know this video is a little late, but things have been pretty hectic lately. School has been a lot and I had some issues with my laptop recently. If you know, you know, but I am finally filming this video, so apologies for its tardiness, but she's here and I'm ready to talk about the books I hated in 2023. Now, honestly, I was looking at all the books I read in 2023 to start curating this list, and there weren't that many that jumped out at me that I was like, oh, that was really bad. So I have 10 books that I'm going to talk about today. 3 of them were my DNFs from 2023, and honestly, I don't consider those bad books. They just weren't working for me, so I put them down. And then a few of them are books that I gave 2.5 or 2 stars, so not necessarily horrible books, just books that didn't work for me. And then I have my 3 definitely worst books of the year, my 3 1-stars that I just I hated with a passion. So we're gonna lead up to that. So first, we're gonna start by talking about my DNFs of 2023. So like I said, these books, like, they're not necessarily bad, and I wouldn't say that I don't recommend them. For whatever reason, they just weren't working for me, and I am really sad about all 3 of these books. But the first book that I DNF'd last year was Violet Made of Thorns by Gina Chen. I think I read this, it was either January or February last year, so it's been almost a year since I tried to read this, and I really did not get very far. I think I only got like a few chapters in, but for some reason the writing just wasn't working for me, and I was like so confused about what was going on and who was who, and the intrigue was just not there for me. I don't even remember what it's about. It is a YA fantasy, and as you can see, I have this beautiful Fairy Loot edition with these beautiful sprayed edges, so it is super upsetting. What does the naked cover look like? This is what the naked cover looks like. Like, it's such a shame. So maybe, I don't know, maybe one day I'll try this again, but I honestly don't think I will. And look at this art. Look, it's so beautiful. So I'm so sad I didn't like it. Let me refresh my memory. If you thought that I barely remembered anything from my best books of the year, wait till you see this video, because these books just leave my mind as soon as I read them, or I guess in this case didn't finish them. Oh yeah, okay, so there's court intrigue. Oh yeah, she gives like divinations, but she lies about them. Something, I don't really remember, and I don't really care. So I probably will like unhaul this. Maybe I'll sell it because it is the Fair Loot edition. I don't know, this just didn't work for me. I don't really have much to say about it because I barely remember it. It was like a year ago that I tried to read this and I did not get very far. So this was very upsetting that I didn't like it, but oh well. The next book that I DNF'd, which was also very upsetting, was In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. And TJ Klune has just not been working out for me lately. I read House on the Cerulean Sea a few years ago and absolutely adored it. It was 5 stars for sure. Then I read Under the Whispering Door 2 years ago, I think. I don't remember, a few years ago. I thought it was just really fine. I think I gave it 3 stars. So this book, I was hoping that we'd be on the up again, but we were not. We went even further down to a DNF. And this, from what I remember, is like a Pinocchio retelling, and there's this boy who lives in the woods who lives with his father, who is a robot, I think. And they have a lot of like appliances that have come to life in their house, and there's like this, like a vacuum sort of, what are those things? A Roomba? Yes, a Roomba. And there's this other lady, I don't know, and they're supposed to be funny, but the humor in this book, I didn't find this funny at all. The humor was so cringy and I just couldn't do it anymore. And also, I have heard, now this is just speculation, I have not finished the book, so I can't say this for sure, but I have heard that there is ace rep in this book, and it doesn't really sit well with me that the book where there's ace rep is the one that has robots, and ace people have often been compared to robots and as having no feelings. And so I haven't finished the book, so I can't say that like that's what the book is saying at all. But that was my impression as to where this book was going, and so that made me kind of uncomfortable. So this book was just really not working for me. I think I got maybe a quarter of the way through it, but I don't know. So TJ Klune, he might be a one-hit wonder for me. Like, I don't know if I'll read any more of his books because they're just getting worse for me. They're not getting better. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then the third book that I DNF'd, which was also very disappointing, was Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I was so excited about this book because everyone I've seen has absolutely loved this book. This was like his first of the secret project books that he wrote that he released last year, and everyone says this is their favorite one. It is one of their favorite Brandon Sanderson books, like in general. It takes place in the Cosmere, so it's in the same universe as the Stormlight Archives and the Mistborn series. I've only read the first Stormlight Archives book in the Cosmere universe, and I know the narrator of this book is from the Cosmere, and I think I've met him. But I hated the way this was written. It just took me out of the story, and when I'm reading a book, I want to kind of forget that I'm reading a book, you know? I want to be like pulled into the story, and this just made it so obvious that I was, you know, reading a book and not part of the story. Like, the narrator broke the fourth wall, and I wouldn't say necessarily that means that I'm not gonna like it, because I think there's still a way to engross your audience while breaking the fourth wall and still make them feel like they're in the story. But this just made me feel like I was an outsider, like on the outside looking in. And I just could not. So I really barely read this book, to be honest. I think I only got to like page 30 or something, but I could just tell this writing style was not working for me, so I put it down. Maybe I'll try again, I don't know, but it just wasn't working for me. And I also was trying to read this for a readathon, and like I was like, I can tell that this book is gonna put me in a slump if I don't DNF it, and I have other books to read, so I put it down. I don't think I'll pick it back up, but we'll see, we'll see. So now we have the books that I did finish and that I gave 2.5 stars to. So I didn't love them. I wouldn't say like I hate these books, but these are just books that really did not work for me. The first one being a book that I completely forgot that I read last year, but that was Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo, the second book in the Grishaverse trilogy. I never read these books when I was younger. I still haven't read Six of Crows. I know I will one day. I read the first one before season 1 of the show came out, and then I read this one right before season 2 came out. I still have never watched season 2, and I know a lot of people said they didn't really like season 2 of the show, but I still would like to watch it one day. So I don't know. I'll probably watch it once I've finally finished all of the books. But anyway, Siege and Storm, book 2 of the Grishaverse, and I cannot tell you I cannot tell you what happens in this book. All I remember is that I was excited to meet Nikolai because everyone loves Nikolai, but he just seemed like really annoying. I don't know. Nothing about him made me like him. I just thought he was kind of annoying. And I remembered there was a part of this book that everyone was mad at Mal for, and then if I'm remembering correctly, I don't think what he did was like that bad, and everyone's like, oh my god, Mal in the show is great, but once you read Siege and Storm, like, you're gonna hate Mal. And I don't know, like, I thought it really wasn't that bad. So yeah, this was just really like weird and fine for me. I barely remember anything that happens. I don't think anything was interesting. I just have very little memory, and I remember listening to this on audiobook, and like the narrator would be talking and I'd just be like where, what, like where are we, what is happening? I was very confused. I don't know, I didn't really like it. Obviously it's in my worst books, so I don't know, I didn't really like this one, but I will read Ruin and Rising one day, and then I can read Six of Crows finally. But I have no desire to pick up Ruin and Rising, so we'll see when that happens. The next book is Whisper Down the Lane by Clay McLeod Chapman, and I actually read this for the Literally Dead book club. I was invited to be a co-host for the month that they read this, so I was very excited. Now, you might know me as not a very big horror reader, but I was excited to give this a go, but I am slowly finding my preferences in horror, and this is not it. This is about, oh my god, do I remember what this is about? It is about the like satanic panic in, I think it's the 80s, but is it the 90s? I don't remember. It's the 80s or 90s, and basically there's two timelines. In the earlier timeline, this kid tells a lie about something his teacher did, and so the teacher faces consequences for something that he did not do, and then this lie kind of follows this kid throughout his whole life. And then in the present day, oh yeah, it says 1980s. And then in the present day, you're following this guy who's trying to start life fresh. Oh yeah, and then the body of a ritualistically murdered rabbit appears on his school's playground, which is not great, obviously. So these two timelines are connected, and I really don't know what else to say about this, but I didn't like it. I thought it was just kind of boring, and I didn't really care about the characters. And like when I got to the live show, I didn't have much to say about it because I just didn't, like, it didn't make me feel very much. But I know a lot of people who like horror like this book, so I think I'm just an outsider in this opinion. This just wasn't for me, but this is the year that I'm gonna find the horror that I like, and it is not this, but it is out there. I know it is. So anyway, didn't love this one. Next is another book that I really don't remember much, and that is Only a Monster by Vanessa Len, I think is the author's name, and this is another YA fantasy. And what was this about? This girl is like half human, half monster, and in this world, monsters can steal time from other people. So like they can go back in time by stealing years off the life of someone else, like of a human. So once she finds out she's a monster, she's like, oh my god, that's horrible, I don't want to do that. But then she learns that she has to do that in order to save her family, I think it's her family that she has to do that. And so you're following this like morally gray character because she has to do bad things to save the people that she loves. Oh, and also I remember this boy that she has a crush on turns out to be like the savior. So like he's the one that's supposed to defeat her and all the other monsters. So she has very conflicting feelings because she's like, he wants to kill us, but he is cute. So that's not great. So she's just trying to figure it all out, you know, high school and stuff. And this was just very not memorable for me. I know this is a series. I think it's a duology. I am definitely not continuing, even though the covers are really pretty, which makes me sad. But yeah, definitely did not love this book, and I thought it was kind of boring, and I just really don't remember. It just felt very like typical YA. It didn't really do anything new in my opinion. I don't know. I just remember it being boring, and I don't remember much. So that was unfortunately disappointing. And then the last book in this little section is a book I read kind of recently, so I feel like hopefully I remember more about this book, but that was Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld. And this book was so bad. So you're following this woman who is writing for a sketch comedy show that is basically SNL, except instead of SNL it's called The Night Owls, so they call it TNO. It's really dumb. She's worked there for like 12 years, I think. She has apparently written the funniest sketches that the show has seen. And so she writes this sketch about how men who are so-called not very attractive end up with women who are very attractive and like much more famous than them. And this is kind of inspired by like real world situations like Colin Jost and Scarlett Johansson. And so like in the book, like her friend who is a writer, like he's, you know, pretty average looking, and he ends up engaged to this like very famous pop star or something like that. And so she writes a sketch about how like this would never happen in the reverse, where like an average looking woman would end up with a really like hunky guy. But the week that she writes this sketch, this very famous and hunky singer is the host on the show, and they kind of hit it off. But it's told in such a weird way because it's told in 3 parts. The first part is, I can't remember what year it was, like 2018, 2019, something like that, where it's following like the week that they're preparing, where this guy is hosting the show and they meet and they kind of hit it off. But then it ends very badly because she insults him. And And honestly, I don't think he should have forgiven her for what she insulted him about. It seemed very like out of nowhere and also just so rude. But anyways, so she insults him and then they like stop talking. Then the middle section is during COVID and they start writing emails to each other. And this goes on for way too long. And then the third part of the book is them meeting for the first time since he hosted the show. And it's just told in such a weird way. Like, I'm pretty sure this is this author's debut book, I think. And if it's not, I mean, it kind of felt like she never wrote a book before. Like, why would you structure your book like this? I don't know. And also, she kept talking about how her jokes were so funny, and she'd be talking about like other writers and she'd be like, oh my god, that joke was so funny. And it'd be jokes that were just so not funny. This book did not make me laugh unless it was me laughing about how silly it was. It made no sense. It made no sense, and for a book called romantic comedy, it was definitely not comedic, and the romance was not interesting at all either. It was just not good. So I didn't like it, obviously, and I definitely don't recommend it. I think it was nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award, and I'm glad it didn't win because it was not very good. And then finally we have the 3 books that I gave 1 star last year. These are the worst of the worst, whatever the opposite of the cream of the crop is. These were just so bad. I do not recommend these books. Do not read these books. I cannot express that enough. The snowplow's going by. So I guess the least worst of the 3 was The Banned Bookshop of Maggie Banks by... who was the author? I don't remember. I'll have the picture up here. I don't remember the author's name. But this was not good, obviously. So this follows this girl named Maggie Banks, and her friend runs this like independent bookstore in this like little small town, but her friend is about to go on maternity leave. So she asks Maggie for some reason to take over for her, even though Maggie is notorious for hating books. Like, she hates reading, but she's like, please do me a solid and take over this bookstore for me. And also, like, Maggie is unemployed and, you know, she has no prospects. So she's like, I'll do her a solid and give her a job, I guess, even though she hates books. So then Maggie goes to this town and, like, oh my god, the way it's described about how like she hates reading, she's like, how can you just stare at a page? Wouldn't you get bored? Like, oh my god, it was so dumb trying to make us believe that people think like this. She goes to run this bookstore, and the thing about this bookstore is that in this small town, it is the town where this very famous writer lived, and this bookstore carries all of his like famous works. It only carries classics. It doesn't have any books that are more modern. And so Maggie starts to notice this, and she's like, this doesn't seem right. She talks to the guy who's in charge above her friend, which I don't really get. But anyways, so she talks to this guy and he's like, well, no, we have to keep the classics, and we have to like we have his books and we have the classics, and that's it. And she's like, okay, whatever. But then she goes to, I can't remember how this happens, but she ends up meeting this author who writes romances, and she's like, romance in a book? What is that? And she's like, oh, it's like, you know, if like, do you like rom-coms? And she's like, yeah, I love rom-coms. She's like, well, it's like that, but in a book. She's like her mind is blown. So she reads a romance book and she's like, oh my god, I love this. Maybe reading isn't so bad after all. Then she's like, god, it sucks that we can't have any more modern books, because I would love to have more books like romance books in the bookstore. So this is what she decides to do. She decides, and the title of this book is The Banned Bookshop of Maggie Banks. So you would think that she would bring in banned books, like, you know, that are banned in like libraries and banned across states, you know, like what's going on in the United States right now. No. It's just that she manages somehow to ship in modern books into the store, and she gets the word out to people in the town that she's selling these books, but she keeps it a secret from this guy who, like, I don't know what his job is, but he is, I guess, in charge of the bookstore while her friend is gone, except I thought that was Maggie's job, but anyways. So she keeps it a secret from him, and then when he asks for the sales reports, she like makes up stuff and says like, oh, we sold this many of Jane Eyre and we sold this many of Frankenstein or whatever. So she just makes it up, but like that doesn't work, and that's not how that's not how businesses work, because someone would notice that their stock of certain books is not going down, even though apparently you've sold like this many copies of these books. So this goes on for so long, and then she also starts running this book club in the bookstore, and I'm like, how is no one noticing that she's doing this? She went real fast from like hating reading to like thinking she invented reading. Like she starts introducing other people to reading. She's like, did you know reading isn't just classics? Like you could read for fun. Oh my god. Anyways, so I rambled a lot about this book, but it made no sense. It definitely made me laugh, that's for sure. It definitely gave me a little giggle, but it made no sense. It was just nonsensical, and I mean, I had a fine time reading it because I thought it was really funny, but I don't think this author knows how businesses work or anything like that. So yeah, this was just not good. It was not good at all. The characters made no sense. Maggie, oh, also, oh my god, I just remembered another element of this book was that Maggie, it is a romance, believe it or not. I did not mention the romance at all, but Maggie and I can't remember who this guy is, but he's somehow involved with the bookstore in some way, but they sign each other up for these like activities to do with each other, and then at the end of the book he's like, oh, we've learned how to make compromises, so now like I'll do things to make you happy and you'll do things to make me happy, and she's like, no. Like she's like, no, you can still do these things for me, but I'm not doing what you want, like. And he's like, okay. It made no sense. So yes, it is a romance that I completely forgot about because I was very hung up on how she was pulling off selling these random books in this bookstore that didn't even belong to her. It belonged to her friend. Anyways, she discovers reading and love that for her, but did not love this book in any way whatsoever. I'm not looking forward to talking about this next book, but this next book and the second worst book that I read in 2023 was Iron Flame. This is the second book in the Empyrean series, I think it's called. It is the sequel to Fourth Wing, which everyone knows what Fourth Wing is. It was like the biggest book that came out last year. Everyone read it, everyone loved it, and honestly, I had a lot of fun with that first book. I think I gave it 4.5 stars, which now I'm embarrassed about because of how bad this book was, and I remember Riley Marie's review for this book was that it made her feel embarrassed that she liked the first one, and honestly, that's exactly how I felt. This book was, how many pages is it? It's like 600, let's see. It's a bit over 600 pages, but the thing with this book is that I saw someone on TikTok who explained why this book felt so much longer than 600 pages, and that's because apparently the word count of this book, I can't remember the exact number, but apparently the word count of this book is longer than House of Earth and Blood, which is over 800 pages. Like, the font in this is probably the smallest font I've ever seen. It is crazy how long it took me to read this book, especially because the first book, I kind of flew through it. This one, no. This was so, honestly, like, horrendous. You could tell that she just rushed this book. It was so bad. I truly hated everything about it, but what I hated the most was Violet herself. Now, I didn't love Violet in the first book, but this book, she was unsufferable. So she's mad at Xaden in this book. By the way, I'm not going to explain what these books are about because everyone knows what Fourth Wing is, but anyways, Violet is mad at Xaden for a certain reason. I don't want to go into spoilers. I don't know. I kind of want to go into spoilers. I'll just say that she's mad at Xaden for something that's kind of revealed at the end of Fourth Wing, but like the reason she's mad makes no sense. because basically he kept something from her is why she's upset. But the reason he kept this thing from her is basically to save her life and also the lives of everyone she loves. But she's just so mad at him that he kept this from her, even though she like deep down understands why he kept it from her. Like, it makes no sense. The whole book is just her in her head being like, I can't believe he kept this from me. I can't believe he doesn't tell me anything. But she'll be like, oh my god, I can't believe he doesn't tell me his secrets. And then she'll like almost say, like she'll like say something under her breath and her friends are like, what did you say? And she's like, oh my god, I almost told them blah 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 blah. And I'm like, this is why nobody trusts you with anything. It was so long and so boring, and the writing in this, like, the thing about Fourth Wing is that the writing isn't particularly good. It's just that I really love the dragons, basically. The writing in this is so much worse. It's so... oh my god, it's so bad. It's just so bad. And honestly, it hasn't been that long since I read this. I can't believe I read this whole thing. I should have DNF'd it, honestly. But people would die in this book, and I'd be like, I don't care. People would come back to life, and I was like, what? I hate that. I hate that trope. It just... no. I don't even want to look at it anymore. I just hated this. I thought it was so bad, and I never want to look at it again. So if you have read the first one and you're like, oh, I can't wait to continue the series, just don't do it. Don't do it, okay? Don't pick this up. Okay, now we've reached the last book, my worst book of 2023, and I feel like it's not going to be that surprising because of how much I ranted about this book when I read it, which was way back in January, I think. I'm pretty sure it was January 2023 that I read this, so over a year ago. But that book is The Maid by Nita Prose. I hate this book so much. I hate it. I loathe it. It is awful. I hate this book. Okay. So this book is about this woman who is a maid. Surprise, surprise. She works at this hotel and she takes her job very seriously. She loves her job. She loves cleaning. She's just very happy with her work. And one day she goes into one of the guest rooms to clean it and she finds a dead body in the bed. And so obviously she is one of the suspects because she's the one who found him. So the book is about her trying to figure out what really happened so that she could prove that she was innocent. And I hate the way that this was written because this is written in first person. So you're in the maid's head. I think her name was Molly. You're in Molly's head, and it's never explicitly stated, but it is heavily implied that she is autistic or neurodivergent in some way because she has a lot of trouble having conversations with people. She has a lot of trouble understanding social cues, and the way that this is written, I find, is very offensive to autistic people because it's written in a way to make them look like they're stupid when they're not. Their brain just thinks differently to other people's brains. So like people will be talking to her about something and there will be a lot of subtext in the conversation, and like it's written in a way that makes it so obvious that you as the reader know what's going on, but Molly doesn't. And so you're supposed to be reading it and be like, ah ha ha, silly Molly, of course you don't understand, you're just so naive, blah blah blah. And I hate that. I hate that it infantilizes her because so many things happen in this book where people take advantage of her because she does not understand the subtext of what's going on. She doesn't understand sarcasm. She doesn't understand when people are taking advantage of her, and I think that's such a horrible message to have in a book where the main character is implied to be autistic or neurodivergent, and just because they don't understand social cues doesn't mean they're stupid, and this book makes Molly seem very stupid. And I hate that because autistic people are not stupid. So it makes me really mad to think about. It made me very uncomfortable. I just don't understand how this book is as popular as it is, and a second book has come out now. Now I know that, you know, I don't know if the author is autistic herself or neurodivergent, and also if you read this book and you felt very seen, like, I'm very happy for you. I'm not trying to say that my opinion is right or anything, but personally it made me feel very uncomfortable and I just did not like it. I did not like it at all. It made me very angry. I can't believe so many people love this book, but I hope I never have to talk about it again, honestly, because it's been a year since I've had to talk about it. So here we are, a year after I read this book, and I hope it's the last time I can talk about it because I never want to think about it again, to be honest. I hate that I work at a bookstore where we have lots of copies of the first and now the second book, but it is what it is. But if you get anything from this video, I think you should definitely not read this book. I mean, obviously you could do whatever you want, but I hate this book. And that's all I have to say. So those are my worst books of 2023. And also, I know I'm supposed to make this like obligatory statement that these are my opinions, and obviously if we have different opinions, that's okay. I hope we all know that by now. Like, if any of these books are your favorite books, I'm obviously not coming after you. Like, you can like whatever you like, and I can hate whatever I hate. And that's all there is to it. So hopefully no one's offended, but whatever. It's reading, we all have different tastes. It's fine. Let me know what some of your worst books of the year were, or did we share any of the same worst books? I would love to know that. But if you watched till the end, leave like the person going like this emoji, because we don't like these books. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon with another video soon. Bye!